Thank you, Janelle, and thank you, Kathy, of course, for setting up this event, allowing me to speak with you. My predecessor, his name is Terry Corneliuson. How many of you interacted with him? Terry set such a huge bar as far as service goes. I hope that I can at least cross half his service in terms of the quality of service and how much he cared for and everything. So he's my benchmark, and I just have to get close enough to gain his reputation. What I wanted to talk to you about today is just what we do in Small Business Development Center, the origin of it, not as much about the origin of it and all of that, but one thing that we have in our network in Washington is we have 28 people all across different parts of the state. And these are people with a lot of experience. One of them is a CPA, one sitting next to me, Ellen Stanford, who is my mentor through the certification process. He has 37 years in banking, and so he knows all the banking language that Kathy and some of you taught in terms of getting loans and things like that. So he's our go-to guys when we have to go for getting bank loans. So one of the things that people ask me is, so what does SBDC do? So my response usually is, we do what we can to gain you the notoriety of and the wealth of Kim Kardashian and her family. That's not true. What we do is assist you and help you achieve your vision, whatever that might be in terms of business. Some of the questions that we often get asked is, what do you guys advise people on? It could be any number of things. So my answer to that is, it depends. It depends on whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you are a sustaining business. Speaking of entrepreneurs, they are an interesting bunch. I was one of them. I'll tell you three common traits among entrepreneurs. Maybe some of you will be able to identify with that. One, they have great passion. Second, they think the world needs it, and they wonder why the world has been surviving without their whatever it is that they have in mind. And a third is they have little money. Oh, maybe I'm being too kind. They have no money. Oh, I'm actually being really kind. They have not only no money, but often they are in debt. So one of the first things I tell them is that, if you're in debt, solidify your credit cards, go where there's money, cashback programs, at least get that done, and find credit cards that may have 0% for a year or 12 months, and certainly don't pay for initiation fee or a monthly fee. And some of them will come to me and say, we have an American Express card. Get out of it. So these are kind of the challenges that when entrepreneurs come. I call them, in electrical engineering, there's a term called pulse width modulation, which stands for P, the acronyms are PWM, and that's what the entrepreneurs are. They have the passion, they want to cover the entire world, and they have no money. So in terms of passion, what we tell them is, here's passion and here's profit. And there's a long gap between the two. So we work them through the whole process, letting them identify what we call as blind spots, things that they may not be familiar with, to bring passion to profit, such as a robust business plan, a financial projection, a cash flow projection, all of that, so that hopefully they can bridge that gap. Otherwise, they'll just go and just fall right in. And we can almost get. So that's one thing, is that having a small business development center advisor working with you can help you minimize the chance of falling through the crack. And the good news is we offer our service for no charge to you whatsoever. So you say, well, how are you getting funded? We get funded, co-funded, matching funds between Small Business Administration and Washington State University. And that's how we get funded. But to the public, it's no charge. Now, in terms of what kind of questions we get asked by sustaining businesses, how many of you have sustaining business? I know the bankers. Businesses that you operate, that you may be thinking about expanding or reaching out to an export business. Tell me about that.
Well, we have a home decor store.
Sweet.
And we also teach people how to paint. We carry the Anacilone chalk paint.
Nice.
And we're at the point where we think we need to maybe do an online store, ship paint, maybe even furniture, but it's just clogged in the head right now.
So you need to sit through all that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the top 10, I asked my colleagues about what are the top 10 questions that you often get asked. So the questions that we get asked: financial projection, business plan, and now more and more, selling on Amazon, selling online. Those are becoming quite common. And of course, the more traditional marketing, sales, what kind of marketing plan we should have, what kind of sales channels we should use, etc. And export is another question that we get asked. And regarding export, one of the things I want to mention is that the Small Business Development Center at Washington side has 2 people with expertise on the export side. So export compliance, they conduct seminars, they also walk you through the whole export process. They're really crackerjack experts, you know. So think about us when you're looking at either you have a bright idea, such as Janelle's husband, and what does he say? He wants to conquer the world. This is going to be an amazing thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to make lots and lots of money, right?
No, he's just going to change the world.
Oh. It's surely a common theme. I mean, it's great that they think about the world being a marketplace, but one of the things that we do, the first thing is let's jointly come together and create what's called as a minimum viable product. And a minimum viable product is just one that you might be able to do a prototype and maybe have early adopters, people that really believe in you, work with it and give you feedback. And it's not a product that you want to take it out to the whole world, but it may be something that you could incrementally develop as you go through the product development side. But, and let's see. And, the other thing that I'd like to say is that in the true spirit of advisors, we always give reading assignments. So I brought with me 3 books that are amazing books that you may want to read. Keep it on your bedside reading. I also have brochures about the Small Business Development Center that you're welcome to, my business card. And one thing, before I forget, please fill out a survey that I brought. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And of course, Ellen can also join in to answer any questions that you might have.
I've been with the network almost five years after retiring from banking. I really wasn't ready to go fishing yet. And in the banking industry, we certainly work with a lot of businesses, both startups and existing businesses, who ask questions. And as bankers, we kind of get we have kind of a limit that we can go to assist clients. It's called lender liability. In the SBDC, I have no lender liability, and I can take a client as far with their business and preparing themselves for a loan, for extension, for equipment, for almost anything, and not run the risk of having lender liability, which means a banker cannot package a loan for a customer because they're actually packaging it for themselves. So it's a no-no. But with the banks in Spokane, I work a lot with clients that come to the bank and who may have a project they're working on, but maybe for some reason are not quite ready. Their projections may not be quite finished. Their marketing plan may be a little light. And so what I work with them is the bank send them to me. I certainly help them prepare to go to the bank. I do a mini loan review, a mini interview with the client to get them prepared for the questions that I have when I meet with the banker. I also do quarterly financial reviews for all of my clients, more of a financial education. It's one thing to have an accountant prepare your statements and your tax person prepare a tax return, but unless you really understand what it means, it makes it a little bit more challenging managing your own business. So what I do is I work with the clients and helping them manage their business through being familiar with their financial statements. So they're certainly more prepared to grow. They're more prepared to react to situations in the marketplace. And certainly the bankers find it's much more advantageous to deal and to work with a well-prepared borrower. It just makes the whole process that much easier, that much quicker, if the information that they have on their financial statements they understand and can answer questions with. I work with also a lot of clients on the marketing plans, whether it's media marketing, whether it's distributor marketing, social media. We work with all that. I work with a number of clients in setting up personnel plans for them, working with employee handbooks and job descriptions and everything. So anything that touches a small business, we get involved with. And it's, to me, it's very gratifying because every client I deal with, and I work with about 100 to 120 new different businesses every year. So I get to see a whole lot of them. And to me, that's exciting. You see, you get to meet a whole bunch of personalities. You get to be involved in a whole bunch of different industries. But more than not, you get to be involved in a lot of different people's dreams, and that's pretty cool. And so that's what the Small Business Development Centers do. Is we're kind of like a virtual COO, CFO, CEO, bookkeeper, and all the other hats that the small businesses wear. We're also certainly a very good sounding board. Lots of questions come up. We try to answer a lot of questions that clients have. We hopefully they get to know more of what they don't know when they're running a small business. So,
And this may be a question for the bankers, the two bankers here. One thing that I tell entrepreneurs is don't even bother going there to the banks. Just go find, I call them 4 F's: founders, friends, family, and the last thing is fools. Go to those 4 first. Make sure that your business is credible, you're producing something, or you're selling something before you start going on to the bankers. What do you make of that?
well, banks certainly like to see equity, or what the banking term that we learned in Banking 101, skin in the game, actually is. If the banks want to be an investor in a bank, they don't want to run, or in a business, they don't want to run the business. They don't want to own the business. So that's a joint partnership. So, when we prepare, brand new businesses for going after their first level of funding, we look at the traction the business has. We look at the markets that they're going to be involved in. A lot of those markets, many bankers aren't quite familiar with just yet. So their initial source of funding may not come from the banks, but their source of growth funding certainly will. And so our job is certainly to prepare them to become a bankable business, because that's really going to fund their future. And so there's all sorts of different sources for funding out there, and we try to be a kind of a gatekeeper to all of them, to explain where they are, what they are, how to use them, and certainly what are the pros and cons of doing alternative funding. So, yes.
So what would you say the definition is of a small business, and how does it differentiate between what would be a large business?
The small businesses that we work with take into account the Small Business Administration's definition of small, which is not small. It's generally annual revenues under 5 million and employees less than 500. Now, it depends on the industry that it's in, but it can go up to 500 employees in certain manufacturing and wholesale industries. But that's the definition of small. The definition of businesses that I work with are probably revenues under 2 million and probably less than 15 employees. That's more typical of the business community and certainly in Eastern Washington. There are a few that are above that, but most of them are the ones that are 1 to 2 million in annual revenues, up to that, and then 25 or less employees.
This may interest you in particular. The last enterprise that I have, and I still have it, I sell products on Amazon. In fact, I'm actually doing a seminar on demystifying selling on Amazon. So that's an area that I feel somewhat qualified because of the bruises that I've had. Lessons
Sometimes you
learned.
learn through the bruises, don't you?
Oh yes. And one thing that I did was that I originally posted the product first. And then I just happened to find a larger volume a distributor on Amazon. And the reason I did that was because as a first timer on Amazon, you have so much credibility. Before they'll go to a cash, pay for it, they'll see what kind of a rating you have. And so when I went from my website sales to Amazon sales, on Amazon there are 2 levels of sales. One is called Merchant Fulfillment Program, and another is called the Fulfillment by Amazon. And Fulfillment by Amazon means that you're sending some of your inventory there, and they're actually fulfilling it. And all of the customer service activities like returns and things, Amazon handles it. So what I observed was, when I was selling on my website, sales was like this. And when I went to merchant fulfillment, it went up. When I went to fulfillment by Amazon, it went way up. Now, that's true of my volume sales, but selling from the website went down to zero. So I sell virtually 0 products. And then another client that I saw was when I signed on the distributor with a large selling record on Amazon, it went up even more. And the reason I can only extrapolate is that people will look at, before they go out and pay for it, they will see what kind of a record you have as a merchant. Then if they look at another person offering the same product, another merchant offering the same product, and same price, we're perfectly synchronized. The distributor and I sell for the same price. And of course, I have to give him the margin, and I have to also give Amazon the margin. But people look at his record, and if he has a large number of people who have reviewed him, they feel much more confident to pay him. That's just the way it works. The other thing that you may consider is creating videos on YouTube. If you have expertise in certain things, just grab onto it and create videos. Creating videos, I don't want to belittle him, but he's probably going to create really high-class video. But for most videos on YouTube, just to establish yourself, you can just do it with a small, inexpensive video camera. The main thing is that you have to have good lighting and good sound.
Okay.
And you can create it, whether it's, how to stitch or how to create, whatever your expertise is, just create short videos. And then once you have a following, people will want to come to you because they'll want to read about what you have or hear about what you have to say. So videos is a big thing for me.
Okay, gave me some ideas there.
Which is interesting, back in my day, we barely had TV to advertise on.
Oh, hasn't it
Now you
just
got-
transitioned totally?
Now you got social media, and I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah.
I guess what, maybe this is a little off task, is where I feel ignorant, kind of harsh term there, is I'm not always sure how to get I would sell big things, and I have people say, well, you need to ship your stuff, and I'm just very uncomfortable with how I actually do that, and that's maybe my own thing is, I want to get it from point A to point B, but I'm just not quite, I need somebody to walk it through with me And I think that other businesses, we're not always sure how to walk it to that other point. Sometimes, so we don't even know how to explain what we need.
Yeah.
We're that in the dark.
Well, you're not the only one, believe me. Because I'm, my first enterprise, I didn't know. I didn't know what questions to ask. So sometimes having somebody to talk to, and so sometimes as advisors, we're like counselors, we're just listening. Part of the time we just listen, and then they come to realization of what they need, but after they sit down and talk about it. On your shipping, just to mention, I learned a lot.
I think that's would be a big learning curve, the
Oh
shipping
yes,
part.
I learned a lot, so I wanted to have you avoid all the mistakes that I've made.
I think as small business people in Colfax, one of the things that's really hard for us is sometimes getting people here. And I don't know how that works and do what your expertise is, but Colfax, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but we're very mobile. Shopping local is something we don't do. I mean, we don't have a problem getting in our car and going someplace. And what's really scary is, like my business, probably 70% of it isn't Colfax. But we have people from Spokane and Lewiston and all those other places coming here to get the deals. But the people here go someplace else to get the deals, which I find is very interesting. But just to somehow how we can advertise the whole city as a place worth coming to and finding our good deals is where I think a lot of us are very frustrated. Maybe it has nothing to do with you.
No, but I can add something from my personal experience. Moscow, I live in Moscow, has an initiative for Buy Moscow products, and they have merchants that participate. And you can learn from that. And they have a Facebook page, and they put up local products, and local people sign up to it, and they track them, and that's how they're able to generate some interest locally.
Oh, okay.
So if there isn't a similar program here in Colfax, maybe that's something that either the chamber or some, and it's done by volunteers that created this initiative, and they drive it, and they just keep chipping away at it.
Could you leave that information?
Yes.
I haven't got a pen. I
Yeah.
can write it with my fork, but I don't think it'd be here.
Yep.
Here's a pen. I think the city and the chamber and the downtown association, right now they're three separate entities, and I believe they're starting to have those conversations on how they can work together to help promote our town and the businesses and what we have here. So I know those conversations have started. I'm not quite sure where they're at, but you're not alone in that thought, so.
Yeah, Newport, Washington is about the same way. They're small, they're local, they're on the border of Idaho, and they have, the organizations in town have kind of, from a marketing standpoint, kind of joined forces to do something very similar rather than kind of track each other doing different things. And it seems to be working. It's a matter of sitting down and figuring out and determining where our customers come from. And how do we reach them? How frequently do we need to reach them? Is it through media? Is it through print? Is it through social media? Whatever it is. It's just identifying who you're trying to reach, where are they, how many of them are.
So what kind of a person walks you through that? I mean, so if we had all these people or businesses sitting in this room, is there a speaker that comes, or could you come and do it? Am I totally off track here? Who helps you with figuring that out, other than just having a good...
Between Aziz, myself, and my colleague in Spokane is, she does her own blog, she does her own newsletter, she's a social media, she's got younger than him, so she understands all the social media marketing. And she works with a lot of my clients in setting up marketing plans and looking at the various avenues to market. Whether it is strictly social media, whether it's through email newsletters like Constant Contact, or it's media ads, or it's radio, billboards. you know, it's just kind of putting all those things together with, you know, the resources that you have, the funds that you have, and generally who your clients are, and what's the best way to reach them. So it's, you know, it's a project, you know, especially since if you're first starting out with trying to, you know, mesh 3 organizations, and there are different, you know, concepts and ideologies of marketing and customers and, you know, all this type of stuff. But I think once you come to some agreements, you'll find that there are some common ways to reach clients and customers that you all deal with, no matter what the business is.
What was that Moscow?
It's called Buy Moscow.
Moscow.
And if you go to facebook.com and Buy Moscow, I'm quite sure that it is that name, but I want to take your contact information so I can send it to you.
Okay.
I want to confirm it before
Okay.
you go. But it's something like Buy Moscow. And they do a good job of promoting it. And of course, it also kind of sort of depends. It takes time for the community to kind of support it. It just takes time. You know, if you don't have it here, it just might take a few years, few months to realize some benefit out of them. But if you start those initiatives and you have people supporting it and joining the Facebook page, for example, it can just help you. You know, businesses joining it, and I'm sure that Colfax has, City of Colfax has a website and Facebook page and all of that. Sorry? Yeah?
Yeah.
And you
I
can,
think some of it is just training some of us to the library has been really good. They've had some social media classes, and unfortunately, we're so unorganized we're not unorganized. We are a very busy community.
Of
Wear
course.
many hats, a lot of us, and it slips through our fingers that we needed to go.
sure.
And so, understanding how the chamber's website or whatever is going on, how we can join together to make that work for all of us is something we just don't understand. Me being one.
And speaking of the library, can you tell a little bit more about that center that you're building? Is it a 501c? What the business structure will be?
So, okay, so the chamber has committed to being a part of the center when it's finished. So that would be one local small business. It's going to be a place for like arts, culture, education. We would have rooms for like small business incubation. We'd
Nice.
start out there or host,
Nice.
meetings and things there. I do know that, as you said, the Downtown Association is kind of in coalition with the library and supporting, I think it's called, let me check my notes here. It's like the Washington State Downtown, yeah, something to do with,
It's the Main Street program.
yeah, the Main Street program, thank you. And so those are all kind of tied together, and, I know what you're saying, like, all these small towns, they are dying or have died because the local small businesses haven't been supported, and we don't want that to happen to Colfax. That's why this is, everyone's kind of been coming together. But I see what you're saying, like, how do you reach the customers that live here and you want them to shop locally? So through social media, it's possible, I mean, all I can say from my own experience is advertisement is key to draw people to your business, whether it's flyers around town, the newspaper, social media, word of mouth. It just takes time to remind people, hey, Colfax has some of what you need. You don't need to drive to Walmart every time you need something. So I've been challenging myself lately. I shopped in Colfax the last 3 times I needed a gift. And I told myself I'm not going to go to Pullman just for that because it costs just as much or more to drive there for your fuel and come back. So, I know what you're saying and I understand your frustration big time. So
There's a large group of people just within our own area, whether it's low income or high income, for whatever reason, they choose to think there's nothing here for them. And as far as like social media has been very frustrating because my business will, with this coupon that is in the paper or it's on the email, come in and have so much off your total purchase. not a one. So we're an interesting culture to figure out how to,
So I'll say something on top of that. So one of the goals for the center was to have downtown foot traffic, possible tourism, try to promote the downtown traffic of Colfax. It would draw people in. If we were having an art gallery show or, anything, we want to host events and, help small businesses. So.
Would it be a nonprofit status, or would it be would you have an agency? Is it a 501c corporation?
That is something I'm not sure. I'm kind of taking someone's place here at the meeting. So
It's
Kathy-
hooked to the library,
Yeah,
is what it is.
The library owns the building, and it's
Okay.
based off, we only accept donations and grants. That's how the center is funded.
Okay.
So, we would obviously charge something for someone to have something in there,
Right.
to cover our own expenses, so.
It basically functions as a part of the library, as the community center, and
Yeah.
but the chamber is being housed there as like the forefront office for the other.
I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. I just want to blurt out last week our hospital had a strategic planning session and had our county commissioners there, we had, our mayor was there, our city administrator, had a lot of good discussion around social media and the struggles that the hospital is having with getting people locally to realize the services that we have here in Colfax. And one of the things that the city had suggested is maybe putting together a community type of Facebook page
Yes.
where we all kind of join together
Yes.
and have one location. Have you seen that done before?
No, certainly Moscow has it. And
Okay.
I think to a lesser degree, Poland
That's
has it.
very interesting.
Endicott
Kind
has
of
one.
join forces together rather than everyone be out on their own and having their different struggles. If we can all
Yeah,
join
and I
it
think
together.
the combine helps do that also. We have what we call the combine, Colfax combine.
Mhm.
And it's a newsletter, which the hospital
Right.
inputs, the schools, input the chamber, the city, and the downtown association. So there's 5 entities that, but it's going to take time for people to, I've never heard a bad thing about the combine ever. I think everybody loves it. So, I mean, that's a start.
It is, and I think a big piece of it will be social media, and there's so many of the younger population that they know a lot more than some of us.
Oh, yeah.
But if we can join forces and work together, I think that's a great idea.
An
And then-
alternative view is some people may not want to read about, let's say, a Facebook post relating to the school. They might be only interested in pictures of Colfax, for example. On Facebook, I created a group that's targeted to senior experienced soccer referees because they discuss certain topics that they wouldn't want to, go into just a soccer group site. So my personal bias is have a main one, but be sensitive to the fact that some of the people may actually be, not want to be part of that. They may want to just they may want to create their own little, something Colfax website or a Facebook page that just posting pictures, old pictures of Colfax. But the main thing is you're generating, interest in the city
Right.
through various different means. So that's just another way to look at it.
Sure. I think it's probably still very important for businesses to have their own website,
Yes.
but as kind of their hub, but then if we can get people and traffic to one local
Yeah.
area, whether it be Facebook or Pinterest or all of those different platforms,
Yes.
you can then at least get visually noticed and
Yes.
then get people, then they can go directly to your
Yeah.
website
Yeah.
and see different things.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, links on a website create additional views. So the more links you have to appropriate sites, the more visitations you're likely to have, just because that is encouraged in the internet.
Anything else, Kathy, you want to input your
No,
wisdom?
Vance, don't beat yourself up,
Uh,
because I read the emails, And
You're
so-
not one of those people who don't come in. You do come in.
too much. But I've lived in Colfax for 15 years, and so I'm an implant. So coming into a community where a lot of people were born and raised is difficult in the first place. But you start getting involved and you use municipal boards, city council, whatnot. I've noticed the same thing, what she's saying. People really do shop out of town.
Yes, they do.
And I'm the opposite. I feel like if you're gonna live here and you don't want your town to die, you better shop here. And so Rosars does fairly well because we have a lot of elderly people, I've noticed. So Rosars does great. I think it's helping that people are, buying older buildings in town and fixing them up. I think that's gonna help. We get all the WSU traffic. I did a bed and breakfast for 3 years. We were always booked. We chose our weekends. And it's funny because a lot of the people that stayed with us are like, so where would you suggest to eat? Is there anything downtown to look at? Whatnot. I think we need to really, if I was a business owner, I think we need to hit Siesta, Best Western, and say, again, visual pictures.
Yes,
Here's the inside of Hen House Chicks,
yes.
and have it up. Here's the inside of Tick Clock. Here's the inside of our library. Here's the inside of, I think we need to put pictures of, I think visual is definitely huge.
Yes.
Because I have my little reader board at the bank, that people put their stuff, and some people stop and look at it, some people don't.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that the ones that have pictures on them, get more
Everyone should
people
look at
looking at them. So, I read your emails and I shop there, but I think that definitely we need more visuals out there to get people to actually stop and shop. I know my sister, she lives in Clarkston, she drives all the way to Rockford to shop at a place like Hen House Chicks. So I think that we can definitely bring the people in,
Yeah.
but it's definitely gonna take some more social media, pictures, getting out there. And I think our speed trap is starting to kind of go by the wayside a little bit, because I know a lot of people before were like, you gotta call Colfax,
You can get it.
I haven't heard that as much in the last 3 years,
Yeah.
as much. But I just think that not only preserving the buildings that we have and investing, putting back into our community, I think that there's a lot of people, like she said, that wear different hats, because there's only so many of us that are willing to volunteer and go around. And I think we need to start getting some of the younger people involved. And that's why I really tried when I joined the foundation. Hey, our dinner that we do and our auction up there is great. It's wonderful. But let's do something fun down at the park and different and whatnot. So they did the concert last Sunday. Decent turnout. So that's a start. But I definitely think we've got to get the younger generation going, or we will see Colfax shrink.
And there's a little neighborhood in Spokane, it's called the Perry District. It's Perry Street, it's between the freeway and the South Hill. Anyway, it's really small, kind of quaint, it's very, very old. But they run a weekly open market every Thursday between May and I think October 15th. That they have all the businesses really kind of open on Thursday. Either they run specials or promotions or whatnot, but they also have a block area that is kind of set up like a craft fair on its local businesses. So people coming through on like every Thursday, they're going to see crowds all over the place because they're just going in and out of stores, in and out of restaurants, and going through this little market that's set up. And it's jammed every Thursday, rain or shine, every Thursday, because people count on something.
Right.
Then they expect something, and then they show up because they know what's going to be there.
And we do that one time a year, right? We stay open late, like
Well,
Texas
but we've
stay
got
open
the
late.
farmer's market that's gonna
Farmers
start.
market is coming,
Farmers market.
it's gonna start, and it'll be
It's in
between,
May.
huh?
When does it start in
I
May?
think
It starts the end of
End of
May.
May,
End
it
of
goes
May.
till the first part of September.
But
Yeah,
that
and
could
it'll
be
be
a
between
night
the
that the
library
stores could
and-
all stay you know, the same hours as the farmer's market.
See, we have a interesting dilemma in Colfax in the fact that, like, the farmer's market is down in a really nice little park, but the businesses are down here.
Yeah,
But
but
the farmer's
they're
market,
switching.
farmer's
Oh, they
market's
are?
gonna be
Yeah,
moving,
it's
yeah.
gonna be between the library and US Bank
Yeah.
at Spring
Oh,
Street.
good. Well,
Yeah.
that, okay, I just
And,
want,
and it's not just produce, it's not gonna be just produce, it's gonna be, there's craft vendors and there's people that sell foods that they make or, you know, so it's gonna be,
Oh, it's-
oh,
that's
that,
why
they just solve their
it's
big
gonna
problem
take
down
a
there, yeah.
while for it to get, but
Yeah,
I think by the end of the summer,
right.
you know, I think we'll have,
That
It's
should be a
every
much better
Friday night.
location.
pardon?
That should be a much better location.
See, we have the
'Cause it
one
will bring
busy
people
street,
downtown
Right.
instead of down
and
at the
it's
park.
hard to do functions without the highway. You know, you just can't shut the only street down to have a farmer's market. So that's kind of always been a little, and not to mention the fact they're closing it to redo it,
Yeah,
so,
that's one thing that Moscow's
Really?
got going.
yeah.
The whole
When does
street?
that start?
Well, soon, but they're gonna do it at night.
The
That's
highway.
They're gonna do it at night.
working on
Yeah,
it.
they're
They're
gonna
not
do
gonna
it
close
anyway.
the whole thing, yeah.
Oh,
So it will be a faster.
they do that so you can't, they close the whole.
Faster? What if you
Yeah.
live on 195?
They're faster, they will be shutting it down for Concrete River Festival Parade this year.
Oh,
We
interesting.
did it on Main Street,
So they'll
so.
reroute
it'll be-
the.
I mean, hopefully we can continue that.
Well, basically they'll make it so we can drive during the day, but they'll do all their work at night. Which is like, you know, for those of us who live on 195, it's a long summer. If it's, every time you go home, you have to wait in that line.
You don't really have options to go around either.
Well, yeah, we could go at the other end, but there's been many a time where I've taken off and went through the pasture and many a car wanted to follow me.
Well, let's
That has
see.
nothing to do with what you're talking about, sorry.
Well, let's see, we solved the passion problem. We solved the Colfax City problem, but we haven't solved the world problem yet. But we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
And before you guys go, don't forget that we have a raffle.